One, two, 1, 2. All right, we're in. Um, let's go to share screen. Well, I guess we're already at the share screen. I think we are. Maybe we're not. Let's see. Okay, cool. That's what I need, and I need this, and need this file. I need this file. I'm gonna pull this out. Okay, and so yep, I need so number two. This the real thing. I need to make sure I'm dealing with the right version. Make sure that my explanations are where they need to be. Part A, good. That's working for me. Okay, good. Part B, good. And part C, one. Part C, two. Great. Okay. Okay. It looks like we are doing pretty good. Let me just make sure that everything is being recorded. Yes, we are being recorded. Okay, cool, cool, cool. All right, everybody. Hello. I hope everybody is doing well this fabulous uh Saturday. Okay. Hopefully you all are studying. You guys, I'm right there with you. Okay. I believe in you. I know that you all are going to make me proud by striking hard. Okay. And as long as you all are going out there giving it your absolute all, I'm grateful and I'm proud of you. Okay. So let's go out there and make magic happen. Okay. So this response was inspired by several students who took the practice exam and had some challenges with it. And I'm going to give a special shout out to Van Shika, okay, because she was pretty persistent and really getting an explanation for this question. And it took me a second to actually prepare a response for it, and I wasn't able to get to it. So I want to honor her as well as other kids who may have had a challenge with this. And so let's go on and break this thing in half. All right, let's get to it. All right, cool. So this was number two, and this was the part of the FRQ section that gave kids the most challenges, and understandably so. And so in my current class, I sent the video from Mr. Clifford that talked about um, the I think the marginal factor cost, marginal revenue of product, and it was related to that conversation and figuring out how many workers the firm should hire. And so this is kind of that kind of problem. Okay, so let's go on and get to it. I have a written explanation. I don't think your AP readers are expecting you to write everything that I wrote out, but I did it because I wanted you all to see clearly as to how we got to the answers. Okay, and so it took a while, but we got there. All right, let's get to it. So the question begins with Eli's lemonade stand employs only labor and lemons to produce lemonade. It's important to highlight labor and lemons um, because those are the two factors that we are dealing with here. Okay. The table below shows how total production changes at different combinations of labor and lemons. Usually we deal with labor and capital. So this is a little bit different, but we can employ the same tools. Um, Lemonade sales in a competitive market at $1 per cup. We will utilize that information a little bit later. All right. So let's just sort of get a little brief of our little chart here. And this is not necessarily all laid out like it's laid out in chapter 16. Okay, when you all are dealing with derived demand. And they lay out the labor, that they lay out the quantity of production, um, and they lay out the price, the MP, the MRP, and the wage, and they lay it all out. And they don't quite do this here. So the way that we're going to attack this is we're going to extract the necessary information. Then I'm going to break this chart in half so that we can clearly see what we need to, and we're going to employ our cost minimization formula. Okay, so in competitive input markets, each hour of labor costs $6. That's important information because this is letting us know ultimately what is the wage. And they don't call it wage, they call it price for labor. So this is our wage essentially, and each pound of lemons. So we're not dealing with capital, we're dealing with lemons, and the cost per lemon is $2. So if this was MPK, we would call this rent, okay? And this is not a capital resource, this is a natural resource. All right. And so, but we're still going to utilize our cost minimization tool. If Eli has a budget of $14, we'll utilize this information a little bit later for hiring inputs. Identify the least cost combination of labor and lemon. So this least cost combination let us know that we're going to use the cost minimization formula. Hopefully you all are with me here. Okay, so let's figure out how we're going to deal with this A piece. All right, so we definitely need these two pieces of information. All right, this is going to be our wage. This is going to be our price for lemons. We're not renting lemons, but this is going to be, and so we already have half the equation. Let's go back and look at the explanation real quick. All right. So if we look at this part of the FRQ, is only worth 2 points, and we need to figure out how we're going to get to labor equaling 1 and lemons equaling 2. So in other words, 1 laborer and 4 lemons. All right, and then we're going to talk about this cost minimization. And if you go down and look at this, this is the cost minimization formula. They just don't have a wage for labor and rent. So they have price for lemons and price for labor. Okay, but essentially we're talking about the cost minimization formula, which you know. Okay, so let's go back and look at the explanation. So here, okay, great. So labor, $6 per worker. Lemons, $2 per. We're going to take this two pieces of information and dump it into our formula. I laid it out like this because I wanted to link it to something that you knew. LM stands for lemons in this context here, okay? And so really I rewrote the formula and said MPL over price of labor equaling MPLM over price of lemons, okay? So, but essentially we're talking about the cost minimization formula. So we plug in these two, we need to figure out what are the missing uh, values here. Okay. So if you guys go through and work your MP, okay, your MP, marginal anything means change in total of something. So here we're talking about production. We're going to go change 12, change 10. You follow? Because this is our change here. Change 8, change. You follow 6, change 3, change 1, 39 and 41. Okay. So this is our MPL for labor. Okay. And so once again, we're working this formula here. All right. And we're going to do the same thing for lemons. That's why I got L in there. Okay. Change 9, change 8, change 5, change 4. Don't worry about this highlighted part right now or the arrows, anything right now. Change 2, change 1. So now we got our MP LM, if you would. Okay. So once again, if we go back and plug in or look at these values here, number one, we get the highest MPL from one laborer, and that matters. That means something. Okay. So this number is the highest. Okay. So we take this 2 and we plug it here and we go 12 over 6 gives us 2. Okay, and so that's one value field. Now we got to figure out this missing piece right here. So we know that this is 2. We're trying to figure out this part over here needs to equal 2 as well. Okay, and so you can almost do some deductive reasoning or just say, okay, well, shoot, what number goes here that will make ultimately this part of the ratio 2. And so ultimately we're talking about 4. Let's test our uh let's test our theory. So if we go, so we already did our actually I need to go back and do a quick correction. I chose 12 here, and I basically led you all and said that this was the highest MPL. It is the highest MPL, but that's not why we want to choose 12. Um, we choose 12 because when we start looking at this combination, 12 over 6 gives us 2. And then at this point, we're looking for our which MP MPLM is going to give us 2. And so the answer to that is 4. Okay. And so 4 over 2 is 2. 12 over 6 is 2. And that gives us this least cost ratio combination. And we end up with here 2 and 2. Um, and so that is where we want to be. Okay. And so that's going to give us the that's going to give us the least cost combination of labor and lemons. Okay. And so it should be 2 equals 2. Okay. And we can validate that because they said explain. Um, and it's because when we do this, and we look at the cost for the factor. So one laborer times $6 gives us $6. And remember, Eli only has $14 within its budget. And so we will take $2, um, per lemon times 4. Okay, and that's where we are here. We're saying with 4 lemons times 4 lemons times 2 gives us 8. So 8 plus 6 equals 14. That checks out. We know that we're within a budget, and that is how we arrive at our answer for A for um for your FRQ. Okay, so hopefully this makes sense, you guys. Okay, so that's A. Let's go on to B. Okay, so at the least cost combination of labor and lemons, calculate each of the following. So we're trying to find where is the output, what is the total output um, at those uh, at those quantities of lemons and labor. Okay, and so let's go ahead and look at that. Okay, that should be pretty easy. Okay, um, if you go okay, and you look at and we can even look at this chart over here. So one laborer, we look at one laborer here, okay? Bam, okay, we get 12. Okay. And so that is why we have a quantity of 12 here. And if we go to our lemons, we said that Eli is going to um he's going to purchase 4 lemons. And so the quantity is 27. Okay. And so that's why we have that here. Let me go back up here real quick. This is why we have this highlighted here, because that is the total production at one laborer. Okay. So 12 plus 27 gives us 39. And that is our total output for I for B. Okay. All right. So now we move on to the economic profit earned. Okay. And so let's go back to um, our basic formula for profit or loss. We say total revenue minus total cost. Okay. So your formula for total revenue is price times quantity equals TR. And really, we should say um, uh, well, the reason I just had costs, okay, um, because to get the total revenue, it's like cost per unit times quantity, and this is price per unit times quantity. All right, but basically, cost per unit times, and well, we're not talking about unit right now. We're actually talking about either lemons or labor. Okay, and then we're also trying to figure out um, how much of a price he's getting for each cup of lemonade, which we already identified as 1. All right, so if we look at he's going to hire 1 laborer. Okay, and here it said that it's going to cost him $6 per. Okay, so $6 per laborer. So 1 laborer times um oh no, this is the cost part. I'm sorry, real quick. Let's go um to the revenue first. Okay, let's go to the revenue first. All right, so they gave us the 39. Well, we figured out what our quantity of the total revenue calculation is. All right, so our quantity was 39. And we also see that we're only that he's only able to get a dollar per cup of lemonade. Okay, so the revenue formula is price per unit times quantity. So or times output. So we want to go $1 times 39, which is going to give us $39 in revenue. Okay, and then for the cost part, we're talking about how much does it cost per laborer, how much does it cost um, per lemon, and then the quantity of laborers and lemons. So one laborer times $6, $6. 4 lemons times $2 per lemon, right? Because it said that it's going to cost them $2 per lemon. So if we total $6 plus $8, then we get $14. And so to figure out what the economic profit is, we want to take our total revenue minus our total cost. Our total revenue is $39 and our total cost is $14. 39 minus $14 gives us $25. Okay. And that is what you all have for your key. Okay, $25. Okay. So that's that. Okay. And then we have one more piece. All right. And so um if you go down to part C, okay, we have, just 3 more points to gain. So let's figure this out. So we need to figure out what is the output produced. Okay. No. Let's read the whole piece. Identify the profit. This is important. The profit maximizing quantities of labor and lemons. At the profit maximizing quantities of labor and lemons, um, calculate the output produced and calculate the economic profit. Okay. So now, once again, I don't expect you all, I mean, to just like write out all of this, but I was wanting to make sure that this was clear for those of you guys that are working through this answer real quick. All right. So I pretty much utilize our formulas for MRP, and I use the formula of MRP equaling wage, and we dealt with this in chapter 16. Um, and so, but this is a lot of writing though, but just so that you can see where we got it from. Um, let's keep this in mind. Okay, MRP equals wage. Um, is synonymous to MR equals MC. Okay. And so uh you don't have a marginal, you don't see marginal cost like, just in a column, by itself. And for them, and really marginal cost is really a product, a product kind of a thing. Um, but yeah, so in this market, we deal with MRP equals wage. But once again, we're talking about profit maximizing. So I wanted to utilize something that you guys are already familiar with. All right. But in this market, in this conversation, we are trying to figure out um, we want to figure out where MRP equals wage. Okay. And so, so once you are given, the labor and lemons, you are given total production and for that we would gain from our workers and from our lemons. But I wanted to just put this all out so that it was clear as to how we arrived at the total quantity or total production per factor. All right. So in other words, for labor and for lemons. And um, so this is the long route, but I have a short go-to that I'm going to give you all in a second. All right. So first, let's just reestablish that our wage per worker is $6 and our price or cost per lemon is $2. Okay. And so, if we were to, if you go through and make these different changes here to get your MPL, okay, and you utilize the fact that the price per product, which was established here at $1, $1 per cup, we could go MPL times price and figure out our MRP. So in other words, 12 times 1, 10 times 1, 8 times 1, da, 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 all the way through and get this column here. And what we figured out is that the MRP is equal to the MPL. So really, uh, it's not totally a useless, but once again, I'm going to give you a quick go-to. All right. So once we have our MRP and we understand that our wage is uh, $6 per worker, uh, we could just lay out our column of wage, lay out our column of MRP, and look for where the two equal, where MRP equals wage. And we get here. And at this point, we could identify the quantity of output or total production at 36. Okay, same thing here. Okay, our MRP and I just put rent because we usually use deal with this in terms of capital, but really we're talking about price, um, price per lemon. Okay, and $2, two. And so if we look at where our our price per lemon is equal to our marginal revenue of product um, per lemon. This is where we hit zero, and this is where here is where we could see our total production or output. And so at that point, all we would need to do is do what we did before, which is simply aggregate these two. All right. And so this is where we get um, uh, uh, yeah. So okay. So our output is 36 plus 29. Okay. Which is 65. If we utilize oh it's not time for that. Yeah. Okay, well, okay, so here's our output. Our output is 36 plus 29. Okay. And um so that's the first part. Okay. And if we go further and employ our total revenue, I mean, our economic profit equation, we're trying to figure out what is our total revenue, which is a dollar. Okay, a dollar times 36, 36, a dollar times 29, 29, 36, and 29 is 65. That's our total revenue. Our cost per unit per labor is $6. Our cost per lemon is $2. Okay. Um, at um at these uh at these quantities. All right. So we're talking about 4 laborers and 5 lemons. Okay. So if you go $6 times 4 equals 24, $5 times 2 is 10. And this is our total cost, right? So our total cost, 34, our total revenue, 65. If we simply subtract 34 from 65, we get an economic profit of 31. And that is the answer to II, uh, part of C. Okay. So hopefully this was helpful. If you go back and look at it in terms of the key, all of this is explained here. Well, they give it to you here, but I wanted to give you an explanation. Then this is why I wrote all of this out. So hopefully this is helpful. And yeah. And so I'll probably, for those of you all currently in my class, I'll probably go back through this again on Monday. Okay. And that's all I have for you. Okay. So you all take care. Hopefully this was helpful. All right. Peace to you.